The clown held a bunch of balloons, all colours, like gorgeous ripe fruit in one hand. In the other, he held George's newspaper boat. Want your boat, Georgie? The clown smiled. George smiled back. He couldn't help it. It was the kind of smile you just had to answer. I sure do, he said. The clown laughed. I sure do. That's good. That's very good. How about a balloon? Well, sure. He reached forward and then drew his hand reluctantly back. I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers. My dad said so. Very wise of your dad, the clown in the storm drain said, smiling. How George wondered. Could I have thought his eyes were yellow? They were bright dancing blue, the colour of his mum's eyes and Bill's. Very wise indeed. Therefore, I will introduce myself if I, Georgie, am my Mr. Bob Gray, also known Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Pennywise, meet George Denborough. George, meet Pennywise. And now we know each other. I'm not a stranger to you. You're not a stranger to me. Correct? George giggled. I guess so. He reached forward again, drew his hand back again. How did you get down there? Storm blew me away. Pennywise the Dancing Clown said. Blew the whole circus away. Can you smell the circus, Georgie? George leaned forward. Suddenly, he could smell peanuts, hot roasted peanuts, and vinegar, the white kind you put on French fries through a hole in the cap. He could smell cotton candy and frying duff boys and the faint but thunderous odor of wild animal shit. He could smell the cherry aroma of midway sawdust, and yet under it all was the smell of flood and decomposing leaves and dark storm-drained shadows. That smell was wet and rotten, the cellar smell. But the other smells were stronger. You bet I can smell it, he said. Want your boat, Georgie? Pennywise asked. I only repeat myself because you really do not seem that eager. He held it up, smiling. He was wearing a baggy silk suit with great big orange buttons, a bright tie, electric blue flopped down his front, and on his hands were big white gloves, like the kind Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck always wore. Yes, sure, George said, looking into the storm drain. And a balloon? I've got a red, a green, and yellow, and blue. Do they float? Float? Clown's grin widened. Oh, yes, indeed they do. They float, and there's cotton candy. George reached the clown-sized arm. The clown seized his arm, and George saw the clown's face change. What he saw then was terrible enough to make his worst. Imaginings of the thing in the cellar looked like sweet dreams. What he saw destroyed his sanity in one clawing stroke. They float, the thing in the drain crooned in a clotted, chuckling voice. It held George's arm in its thick and wormy grip, pulled George toward the terrible darkness where the water rushed and roared, bellowed as it bore its cargo of storm debris towards the sea. George craned his neck away from the final blackness and began to scream into the rain, to scream mindlessly into the white autumn sky which curved above Derry. On that day in the fall of 1957, his screams were shrill and piercing. All up and down Witcham Street, people came to their windows or bolted out on porches. They float, it growled. They float, Georgie, and when you're down here with me, you'll float too. George's shoulder socked against the cement of the curb, and Dave Gardner, who had stayed home for his job at the showboat that day because of the flood, saw only a small boy in a yellow rain jacket. A small boy who was screaming and writhing in the gutter with muddy water surfing over his face, smacking his screams sounding bubbly. Everything down here floats, that chuckling rotten voice whispered. And suddenly, there was a ripping noise and a flaring sheet of agony, and George Denborough knew no more. Dave Gardner was the first to get there. and although he arrived only 45 seconds after the first scream, George Denborough was already dead.